Hi, today I'm going to show you how to use our Yorkshire button kit to make a little button. The Yorkshire button kit comes with a series of acrylic templates, and I'm going to place this cutting mat underneath so that you can actually see what I'm using and see it a little bit more clearly. When you actually get your kit, you'll see that there's still a protective sheet on each of the acrylic looms. To take that off, just take the edge of one of the other looms and just peel it back, and then you can peel away the plastic protective sheeting. So, in order to make a button, you need thread, and you'll need a needle that will actually, a blunt needle is best, so that you can actually put the thread in and you can do the weaving, and whichever size loom that you want. Place the thread through the central hole and leave a bit of a tail. You can tape the thread to the back of the loom if you wish. And what you need to do now is you need to wrap the thread around the teeth. So you'll go up and around, and then instead of coming straight down, you'll go just a little bit off to the side and wrap around. And then you'll come and you'll wrap around, you'll skip one tooth and wrap around the next one. And you'll continue like this, going around, skipping a tooth in between. Don't wrap too tightly. This is really, really important. If you wrap too tightly, you won't be able to get your button back off again. Then as you come up, just put that first one back on. As you come up and around and you'll meet, you then work in the opposite direction so that every tooth that doesn't have a loop will now be filled. And this is the same way with all of the looms except for the smallest, and the smallest you can just go ahead and fill every single tooth as you go around. So we've come back, just make sure that every tooth has got a loop on it, which it has. And you should be able to see what I'm doing a little bit better now. So I'm just going to put that down, and now I'm going to cut from the ball of thread a fairly long length. I probably haven't cut it quite long enough, but we can always add some more thread. And I'm going to thread my tapestry needle. I've just pulled that first one off. As I say, make sure that your loops aren't too tight along those teeth. And now for the basic Yorkshire button, you're just going to work rounding back stitches. So in the same way as you would for a Dorset button on a ring, you're going to go under a spoke and then back, and then you're going to go under the spoke and the next spoke along with it. And then come back, so under the spoke and then under the next one along. And you're going to keep doing this, working around, and you'll be working from the center out. And these stitches you do want to be fairly tight, because this is what's going to be holding all of your button together. I find that this works really nicely with, as in this case, I'm using a perle cotton, but it also works really nicely with wools, almost of any thickness, because it helps, it fills in all of the gaps nicely when you're working this. I'm just going to keep going around. And just keep working. As you can see, it's quite straightforward. The loom itself does actually help you to keep your stitches quite nice and tidy. You do want to try to keep them even. That'll just make for a nicer button. You need to try to work all the way to the edge, or as close to the edge as your thread will allow. If you need, you can change colors as you're working as well. The kit usually, unless our supplier sends the wrong thing, has a variegated thread in it as well, which is brilliant because you get a nice stripe pattern. These are a really nice tactile button. I've just missed that one, so I'll make sure I go under both. There's quite a few different patterns that you can actually work out as well when you're making the Yorkshire buttons, and there are a few different patterns in the kit, the instructions. But I know people like to see the first one being made. So I'll just keep working these to the end and come back when I've gotten as close as I can to the edge. I did say that I thought I hadn't cut quite enough thread, so I want to show you how I'm dealing with that. It's a little bit too short to get right to the edge. So I've worked a stitch, and then I'm going to leave that under the next spoke, and I'm going to bring on another one at the spoke that I've already done the back stitch on. Leave a little bit of a length, and then go around and do the back stitch that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to leave the lengths themselves at the moment. I'll just keep moving them out of the way as I work, because we can deal with those later, and it will depend, how we deal with them will depend on which side of the design that we actually want to use, because you're going to be able to use either the side that we're looking at to make your button, or the other side if you so choose. Okay, so I will carry on with the winding now in exactly the same way. Continue working the rounding back stitches. So I've worked the stitches all of the way around, coming out from the center out to the edge. I still have those longer lengths where I added thread, and that's the same thing that you would have if you wanted to change color. So the next thing to do is actually to remove this from the loom. So turn the loom over and just ever so gently with your needle flick those loops over. And that's why you can't do this too tightly at the initial wrapping. Otherwise they just will not pop off. So that gives you, move the loom, that gives you a nice little flower shape. And as I said, you can choose to use either the ribbed side, or if you want, you can use the flat side to make a flat button. It's entirely up to you. I've decided I'm going to use the ribbed side. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to take these ends where I added the thread back down to the inside. So they're fairly short ends, so I'll insert that needle first, then thread, and just pull that through. It's as simple as that. And again for the next one. And there's no need to cut these short or anything because they'll just help to make part of the stuffing of the button. So they're all on the inside. Just do a little bit to get these excess out of my way a bit, just so that you can see what's happening. But I'm still leaving them fairly long. And that includes the one from the center. Now, if you were going to do, to use the inside, you would then take the one from the center through to the other side. So that's how you deal with the thread. So I'll thread my original thread back up. And then I'm going to do an over, under on each of these loops. And this is going to make a drawstring, which will help us so that we can gather up the edges of this little shape. And I like to go back to the first one as well, where I started. Okay, so you can see that's already gathering it up a bit. So we'll turn it round, gather it up, and then we can add some stuffing. You can use something like some cotton wool or just some scraps of fabric, or if you really want to, you can actually put this around a bead or even a flat button. You just have to adjust accordingly. We'll draw that in. So we're happy with that. And then work some more stitches. And then a nice way to finish off is to add a little shank. And you can do this by still stitching with your original thread. Work a couple of stitches flat across this section. I'm going to do 3, and then cover those 3 with a buttonhole stitch, blanket stitch. And that will give you a nice little shank, little loop, so that you can actually stitch the button in place. And go back around some of the other threads. Work a small knot. And then sink that right into the inside before trimming off that tail. So there's your little loop. And there's your Yorkshire button. Really tactile, and you can squish them and squash them about a bit as well to add shape to them if you want to as well. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Thank you.